Okay, so I'm going to focus on smart cities. Anybody in the room that is not involved in a city, don't worry. This can be smart places, smart communities, smart anything. The technology, the ideas that I'm going to run through in the next few minutes are relevant to anywhere. Cities is the brand that you tend to hear about. Smart cities, I want a smart fridge, I want a smart street light, etc. All sits under this headline. Now, what we've seen, we've gone out and done a lot of research, we've worked with a lot of our clients globally to understand what a smart city or a smart place actually means to people. And what we found is that where people are starting with the idea of smart assets and smart infrastructure out on their highway network, for example, or within their buildings, actually in order to make the city or the area or the place truly smart, they need to improve the way that they interact and connect with their citizens. And it's the importance of bringing all of that data together from all of those areas, all of those silos through an authority, to bring everything into one place that we can then share it with the community and make the city and the place much more convenient, and ultimately trying to provide ideas about how revenue for an authority can be driven by putting in these types of technologies. We've simplified this idea right down. We struggled with the tens and hundreds of examples of what smart city actually means. And we came up with two levels. Smart City 1.0 is what we see typically at the moment, and authorities are starting to look at smart infrastructure, so smart drains, gullies, pothole monitoring, etc. And they're starting to build up the data foundation. As Saraj said, everybody's got all this data. They don't necessarily know what they can do with it, how they can get value from it. And that's really where they start to move into Smart City 2.0. And this is using that information that they have in the systems that already exist, bringing that to the front, and then starting to drive intelligent decisions and interacting with the community. So we typically get feedback from clients similar to these up on the screen, and we can share these slides with everybody so that you've got this content. And it's all about improving that citizen engagement. How can we provide a better customer experience? How can people use the city or the place or the area more effectively? How can we start to look at something that's providing something back to the community? Ultimately, they've got goals. We've got infrastructure that's timing out, that's getting to end of life. We need to manage it, we need to maintain it. We've got people from a city example moving back into cities. We need to provide an experience to them. And we've got a lot of cities with a population that's changing all the time. We take an example that we've had from one of the Scottish cities where they've got 20% of a change in their population every year. They need to know where things are. They need to know how to interact with the city or the place and how they can get the best value from it. So what we look at is starting to understand how people go through the journey from nothing, really, up to 1.0 and through to 2.0. Coming back to Suraj's matrix from earlier on and being part of the matrix and the matrix changing, this is our matrix. Not quite as exciting, but it's got some data in it that we can use to really start to provide value back to customers and how moving towards a smart environment can improve the interaction with citizens and improve the way that you use the data within an authority. So the pink boxes on the left-hand side there go through some ideas about how you would get to a smart customer engagement piece. Now, this will be different for different customers. This is just an example of what we see from a number of the people that we've worked through this with. And then we see that alongside customer engagement, you need to know what infrastructure you've got, and that's the purple sections in here, and how you start to progress towards that idea of Smart City 2.0, if you have an aspiration to get there. So what we do is we look at all of the city services, and this list is obviously not exhaustive, but goes on, and we start to understand where people sit in this, and start to understand how they currently provide those services, what level they're at, and whether they've got an aspiration to improve. Some services are going to be absolutely fine at one of these lower levels. They're providing two-way customer communication, and they're able to manage that service effectively. For other areas, there may be a valid value proposition that means that we can take that service to a higher level, provide revenue back to the authority, provide savings, and provide a better experience ultimately for the customer. And we split this up into solutions. So as PB, we're a software company. We're focused on solutions and technology that we can provide to people. The really important thing for the people in this room is that with the customer interactivity and engagement piece, the big pink blobs here that sit at the top of that smart city level is really provided by the functionality that you've got within Jadu. You can get up to that proactive, personalized customer interaction level very easily. You need to bring the rest of the services along in order to get the true value from that and understand how that impacts the infrastructure and the services that you've got actually being carried out on the ground. But by bringing that together, bringing your data from the silos within the authority, bringing in a single customer view and the single record of an individual, as Ben spoke about earlier on, we can then start to go through using that data, visualization, and making it available to customers in a more interactive way. So what does that really mean? So we split it into 3 sections: people, places, and things. We do places and things, Jadu do people. That's pretty much what we're here to talk about today. And if you come out and see us, we can explain some more detail around this. But we look after infrastructure. Where is it? Is it maintained? Does it work? All important things to keep a smart city or a smart place functioning. Is it maintained well? We can start to do analysis on places. What specific information do we know about a location? How can we use that to communicate more effectively with people? Looking at bin collections. When is that place due to have their bin collections? How can we improve that communication? And ultimately, how can we provide that data back to the people in the communities that we serve? So I'm going to go through a couple of examples here. We'll play Spot the Pothole, which has just appeared on the screen over on the left-hand side. Typical process for us. So we would typically get a report through from Jadu, from a web portal, able to interact directly with our software. And you've heard a lot about that through the sessions today. Two-way integration now available. So what that means is as soon as somebody's reported a problem, the authority knows about it. It's up on a dashboard, we understand the priority, and some of the areas that Mike spoke about earlier on with potholes and AI and the way that Jadu is starting to look at that, can define the priority that comes in to confirm as, so that we can respond to it more effectively. We can deploy this out to people on mobile devices. So within seconds of somebody reporting the problem, if it's an emergency, it can be out in the field to be dealt with and provide that seamless customer experience through the entire process. We can schedule that and we can ultimately send it out to repair. So we can tell people that it's fixed before they even walk past it in the evening to notice that it has been resolved. We can ping them back information, again coming through the Jadu portal, all of that data in real time passing through the systems so that people can see it, understand that their service has been provided. Or even if we need to deliver bad news, we can do that much more quickly so people understand the situation regarding their issue that they've reported. Now, how do we start to move that forward? That's kind of where we are at the moment. That's very much default. How do we start to bring this to life a little bit and use some of the location and personalization options that we can bring to play? Now, this is looking at a building, just because it's a really easy example to kind of understand. We're looking at an elevator. This is an IoT device, it's a connected device. And it's telling us that it's failed. Coming into our system, say, hey, look, I'm broken. I can't now service the 14th floor that person's just traveled up to. What we can do is use that information and start to provide personalized, targeted information to people affected by that outage. We don't need to send a blanket message to everybody within the area, within the city, or within the place. We can start to send messages directly to people that are affected by that issue. This is an elevator example, but it could be anything in any location. Here we're looking at revenue generation. This is the simple one for a cinema sending 10% off popcorn. It's things that we work with globally with retailers, but we're bringing into the local authority market to say, hey, look, wouldn't you like to be able to communicate with people based on their location, based on when you've got an issue with bin collections, for example, that was picked up earlier on? We could start to proactively communicate this information between the data that we have about the infrastructure and the communication tools that Jadu can provide. Here, another one which usually resonates, particularly in the city environment, car parking. Somebody always uses that car park. Every day they're parking in that car park. But we've got an event. It's next year's Jadu Academy, and there's 10,000 people due to arrive. We want to make sure there's enough car parking spaces in our city that we can provide that to those people, provide them a great experience of the city so they want to come back, but also manage the traffic flow in the city. So we'll go to this person that always parks in that car park and say, hey, look, instead of parking in that car park today, please use this car park. It's 5 minutes away. This is the walk. Here's a discount to the coffee shop that's going to be en route. Please use that so that we can free this car park up for that Jadu event. Now, the final one I'm going to run through comes back again to Mike's presentation this morning and looking at chatbots and the ways that we can interact with people a little bit differently. People can report through Jadu, as we say, through the chatbots, directly into the infrastructure systems so that you can end up with that real-time communication into the systems and real-time action. This is the lift example again. So we can push that out to the portal. We could have this for the building management team, for example, and they can start to understand that they've got an issue within that building or within that location that they need to resolve. What we can also do is push that information out to people that aren't necessarily involved in that situation and say, actually, we know of these 6 other things that are taking place in the city, or we know that we've got some roadworks, some road closures, or an event. We're going to pass you information through video content, and it's something that we're working with Jadu to see how we can integrate this with the system, to say, look, we're going to provide you information in a different format, in something that's really easy to consume. Before you leave your house in the morning, we can tell you it's going to take you 16 minutes to get to work. That's 4 minutes longer than it would usually take you, and here's the information that you need to know about what's taking place within your region and within your city at this point in time, so that they can start to interact and understand how that can be important to them. So within the environment of local authorities in the UK, these are the typical areas that we'll get involved with. So you may see us from a PB point of view in these. You may see us as a franking machine that sits in the reception. That's a slightly different part of the business than what we're running through today. So any of these areas, we've got hooked up to all of those processes that we've spoken about earlier on. And as we say, two-way integration with Jadu available, working on the basis that we've got people, places, things. People, you've got that. You're absolutely where you need to be with getting that data out to people. What we do is help to bring that other data that you've got within the authority into that one place so that you can start to communicate more effectively with people that you are interacting with. What we're ultimately trying to get to is the stage where these simple processes that have been paper to paper or passed through people all the way through the process get to the stage where they're automated and proactive. If something's failed, it automatically tells us it's failed. We proactively communicate to customers so that they know there's a problem before they have to report it to us. Final thing I'm going to show is another thing that we're working on with Jadu, is bringing in some of our data visualization to the web. And it comes back really to everything I've spoken about, is trying to make sure that people have got the right information accessible to them at the point that it's relevant. And this is about, again, bringing data from those multiple data sources into one place so that people can understand how this information may affect them during the day. Could be traffic, could be reports of problems, could be back to that bin issue and missed bins and missed collections. We can get the data from any source within the authority, bring it into one place, provide it to people based on personalisation, and say, we believe these are the things that are going to affect you over today or the next week or the next month. This is what you need to be aware of. Here's the data, open it up, provide it to the customer so that they can interact with the city themselves. They haven't got to pick the phone up, they don't want to send one of the dreaded emails. They can come into this system, view the information, consume it, understand how their council tax is being spent and invested, and ultimately start to build that interactive relationship with the authority, rather than always needing to call the authority with an issue to resolve. And I heard a watch beep, so I think it's 1 o'clock, and I think it might be time for lunch. Thank you very much.